G'day and welcome back to RC Model Reviews. Today I'm looking at a mess on my bench, but no, I want to talk a bit about telemetry. Telemetry, it's a sort of new era in radio control technology. Now we're not just limited to controlling our aircraft, but we can actually get information back from that aircraft and use it in valuable ways. And what I've got on the bench here at the moment is a collection of various telemetry sensors and receivers and all sorts of things. But I'm going to have a quick run through for you and just show you how different manufacturers do telemetry and the value that is out there, and sometimes the value that isn't out there. So let's get started with JR. And here is a JR receiver. It's the, what do they call it? The RG831B. It's DMSS, so it's JR's own 2.4 gigahertz standard, and it has a protocol that includes telemetry. Now you notice the receiver is pretty much like any other receiver. It's got N pins. It's got two antennas for diversity. It all looks pretty stock standard, but you'll notice also there's something hanging off it. And this is a little bit like Spectrum. What JR have done is they've made a telemetry transmitter here, and that's called the, I don't know if I can hold it steady, it's called the RA01T, T for telemetry, I suppose. Oops, better hold it in shot. So what they've done, instead of building telemetry into the receiver, they've sort of added it on here as a separate piece. And that's one way of doing it, I suppose, but it's something else you have to mount in your model. You have to find a place to put it in. There's another problem with doing it this way, is that you notice there's no antenna hanging out of this. That's because on board in here there's a thing called a chip antenna, which is a very small antenna, and unfortunately the way radio works, generally speaking, the smaller your antenna, the weaker the signal. So although this is transmitting, it doesn't have nearly as much range as your radio control link in most cases. So your RC link might go out to 2 or 3 or even more kilometers, but your telemetry is going to be limited in this case to I think about 1,000 meters, which, okay, maybe more than enough for some people, but if you were using, for example, a Vario on a large model glider, you may get a lot further than 1,000 meters away. And in that case, you're going to lose your telemetry, which is a bit of a pain. But there you go. And one thing about this JR receiver is it only has one connector for telemetry. That's this one here labeled Sense. For sensors, so if you've only got one sensor, that's not a problem. But what if you've got more than one sensor? What if you've got 3 or 4? You might have battery voltage, you might have a Vario, you might have current. Who knows what you want to plug in there to this telemetry lead. So what they've done is this. They've put a little hub. This is a passive hub. That means there's no electronics in there. It's just a way of wiring everything together. But again, it's another piece you've got to mount in your model. So when you're looking at the JR solution, you've got your receiver, you've got your telemetry transmitter, you've got your hub, and then you've got to have your sensors. Now, to be fair, the sensors for the JR gear are pretty damn small. This is a temperature sensor, which you might want to use on your battery or your ESC or on your motor if you're running a sort of like a gas motor or something. It'll send back. I don't know what the temperature range is, actually. I haven't really looked. So yeah, but temperature can be useful sometimes. We've also here got an altitude indicator, which should probably also function as a Vario because it's basically just measuring pressure. And here we've got an RPM meter, which has got a little Hall effect sensor that goes on the back plate of your nitro or your gas motor, and it just detects every time the crank pin, the steel crank pin comes past, so you can get RPMs of your engine on your plane. So not much good for electric, but great. Well, I suppose you could use it for electric, but it would be a bit tricky. So there you go. That's your JR telemetry thing. It can be a little bit messy, and I'll just pull out a bit so you can get the full glory of that. But it should be effective. It should work. No problems. As I say, the downside is limited range and also cost. These things are bloody expensive. You notice one thing missing here. I haven't got a LiPo battery voltage sensor because the damn things are about, I think, $60 or something. Ridiculous price. And just to give you a little idea, $60 for a JR voltage sensor, $3 for a FrSky one. So you can see why FrSky has really taken over. Now this kind of setup here is very similar to what Spectrum use. A lot of the Spectrum stuff requires a separate telemetry transmitter, I believe. And again, you've got probably issue of hubs and things. I don't know. I'm not familiar with Spectrum stuff, but I do recall seeing that you have to have one of these on some of the Spectrum gears. Now, having said that, there is something I noticed that Hobby King have brought out a new range of Orange receivers for DSMX and DSM2, and they have built into them a lot of the fluff that you would otherwise have separately here. So there was what is it? I will actually put a link in the description of this video to the receivers I'm thinking about. They look quite capable receivers. If you're a Spectrum fan, then you might want to take a look at those Orange receivers. I've got one on order. I'm going to test it out, see how it works. So you'll know when I know. Right, let's get on with some other manufacturers. And really, the key player in the telemetry game is FrSky. There you go, FrSky. I hope you can read through there. And the reason for that is their telemetry, it really works. If you've got a Taranis, then it's really practical because the radio will speak to you. It'll tell you stuff like your altitude and your battery voltage and your current and all those things that you want to know about. It'll talk to you so you don't have to keep looking down at the damn screen. But if you don't have a Taranis, if you've got something like a Taranis 9X or an older radio with a FrSky telemetry module, you can get this. This is a little LCD screen that plugs into the telemetry module and displays the information you want to see, like your battery voltage and all that sort of crap. So FrSky have made it easy to retrofit existing radios with telemetry. Look, it's a simple little, thing. I don't know how much that is. It's not very expensive. I was surprised how cheap it was. But it goes even further. If you want to go the next step, they actually have something like this. There you go. This one's a bit old and crusty, but that has a transmitter in it. See, there's a place for your antenna here. And then it just goes and plugs into the pins in your module bay. And it has all the stuff, has on screen. You can display your GPS coordinates, your speed and that sort of stuff. It has little buttons here. You can set alarms so it'll beep when you exceed a certain speed or a certain altitude. I mean, it's a great little bit of kit, and it includes all the stuff you need to turn your long wire radio into a 2.4 gig radio. This was a brilliant idea. I'm surprised it wasn't more popular because it really did give people who are old radios, they wanted to keep the ability to go to 2.4 with telemetry without a lot of farting around and soldering wires and hassle. But, that was why FrSky have established such a lead in this market, because they were very early on. They were early adopters and they made it easy for people. Now, FrSky's gone through 2 generations of telemetry. And if I can find some of the old sensors, hang on a minute, I've got them lying around here. Here we go. I think that this is an old one. Yes, yes, here's an old one. That's a current sensor. That's an old FrSky current sensor. And it's an old one because, look, 1980s Dean's plugs. But also, not only that, the original FrSky system had, which is what was used on these, this is a D8R2 receiver. You notice on the side here it's got, I hate these things, look, the labels come off. It's about the worst feature of these receivers, but they work so damn well. It has a little connection here. It says ground, transmit and receive, because your data, you can plug sensors into there. We can't actually plug them in directly. You've got to go through a hub, and believe it or not, I can't find my FrSky hub. I've got a FrSky hub somewhere, lost it, because the first generation of FrSky stuff was, like this. It needed a place to plug all your sensors in, and then it plugged into your receiver. The difference is that the FrSky system had an active hub. It had some intelligence in there, so it could take all that sensor data, combine it up and send it off to the receiver for transmission back to your radio. And notice there's no bits hanging off here. It's just all built into the receiver, which means that your telemetry range is pretty much the same as your RC link range, which is really, really important. And it works so damn well. So there you go. And the other bonus, the big added bonus of these receivers, which also includes the D4R2, which is a very popular receiver, is they have analog inputs. Analog. What's analog? Well, it means you can just whack a voltage in there and the receiver will send the details of that voltage back to the transmitter. But you can't just wire that straight up to your LiPo because it can only take up to 3.3 volts. So that's why you have this little board here I spoke to you about or showed you before. It's got a few resistors on it. You can whack this across your 3 or 4 cell LiPo or your 2 cell LiPo, and it'll convert it down to a low enough voltage that you can plug that straight into your receiver. So in theory and in practice, if you want to monitor your battery voltage, all you've got to do is plug this into here, like so. Whoops, wrong way around, upside down, but it wouldn't matter. There you go. So now, with that set up there, if I put this across my LiPo battery, that receiver will send back the voltage to my transmitter, and if I've got a Taranis, I can set it up so it'll talk to me and tell me when my voltage is getting low, or just regularly shout out my voltage if I want it to, because that's part of the power of the Taranis. Wonderful. So that's the first generation of telemetry from FrSky, and it worked really well. It was pretty good, but it did need that hub, that bulky little hub, which is actually quite big. It was about that size. I wish I could find it. I don't know what I've done with it, but there you go. But it's been kind of superseded because now we have new generation receivers like the one I've just lost on the bench here. Oh, how does that happen? I don't know. I put it, here it is. We have the X series receivers. Now these, let me just go in a little bit here. The X series receivers, these are FrSky's latest range of receivers. There's X6, X8, and there's also an X4 here, X4SB, there's one there in its little box. And these, of course, are S-Bus, and they have the Smart Bus as well. Two different things. S-Bus is for your servos and that sort of stuff. Smart Bus is FrSky's own system for working with telemetry sensors and so forth. And what that means is that when you get the new FrSky telemetry products, they can plug straight into the side of the receiver and away you go. Now a good example of that is one I'm going to be reviewing very shortly. it's this. Oh, if I can untangle it from the rest of the mess I got here. Here we go. This is the FrSky Vario sensor. This damn thing has 100mm precision. It's 4 inches. It can tell when you've gone up or down 4 inches. It's that damn precise. Pretty damn good. And of course with this one, all you need to do is plug this lead into the smart bus port, which is at the top here. You can see, special smart bus. And that just plugs in up here, that way round, ching, like so. And now we have a receiver with a Vario, and that will send the data back to, well, let's turn it around so you can read the labels. That will send the data back to the transmitter, and it will give you all the Vario cool stuff, your altitude, your vertical rate of climb or sink, all that sort of stuff. So it's that simple. It's really plug and play now with the FrSky stuff. See that? No hub. It doesn't require a hub, because what happens is if you want to plug another modern FrSky sensor in there, and there are a whole bunch of them. Here's another one. See, here's a 40 amp current sensor, which will also do voltage, I suppose. I don't know. Haven't checked it out. All you've got to do is plug it in series. So you can actually plug this into here, on the other side here, right way around. I think I'm doing this right because I haven't done this actually. I haven't tested this yet, but there you go. So now you've got current and Vario. And what's happening is you've got the wire coming out of your receiver into the Vario, then it comes out of the Vario into the current sensor. So you can just keep daisy chaining all these sensors without the need for a hub and all that sort of crap that adds extra weight and bulk to your model. It's a really good idea. It's like a network, like a computer network. Everything just daisy chains from one to the other, like some of the earlier Ethernet networks. Brilliant. And there you go. And the other big thing about FrSky, of course, is that this stuff is ridiculously cheap. I mean, you've got X-series receivers. They're about $30 or so, around about $30. This Vario, I think it was $24. $24 for a Vario. If you compare that to the JR sensor, this one here, this is the JR one, but notice it is quite a bit bigger because it does a bit more. If you compared it to that, obviously you think, wow, that must be more expensive. But no, this thing is way more expensive than that. Now, how does that work? But JR, you're paying for the brand, you're paying for the name, you're paying for the support and all the things that go with it. So, yep, and if I wanted to add a GPS sensor here, of course, I could, in some way, shape or form, I can't remember how, I could daisy chain this in as well. Yeah, there we go. What I'd do is I'd actually run this one into here somehow. Where we go? Where's negative? That's that way. I could run this into my GPS. Let me pull out a bit here so you can see what's going on, because otherwise it's all just a tangle of wires to you. Rightio, so I could run that into there, and then out of that would plug into here. Oh no, there was a double on there, so I could have done it the other way. Doesn't matter. Here we go. So what I'm showing you now is a pretty full sensor setup, and what I'll do is I'll just run it past you, because this is how it goes. There's my current sensor. There's my GPS. There's my Vario. There's my receiver. See, as simple as that. It just all goes in one big daisy chain. So all your sensors plugged in. You don't have to buy these hubs and things. Absolutely brilliant. Really good work from FrSky. I love it. And the beauty of it is it all just damn well works. And that's, you know, kind of important, really. So that's it. I thought you'd like to see that about the FrSky telemetry. Now, as I say, there are other companies. I reviewed the Futaba T6K recently, and I lamented the fact that the receiver that comes with it, the 6-channel receiver, has no capability for plugging in external sensors. All it'll do is sense the battery voltage that goes into the pins on the servo connectors. On an electric environment, that's a waste, absolutely useless. So, you know, for a much lower price, you can buy one of these in the FrSky system, and you can plug anything you want in there. For a token, I think the GPS is about $30 or something, I don't know. So yeah, it's just such a better thought out system, really is good. And it's made telemetry, you know, accessible to those of us who, you know, might not want to get involved in lots of complicated wiring and mortgaging the house just to find out how high your model is. So there you go. I hope you found that interesting. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the Vario sensor, because I have been using this quite extensively. I'm going to review this Vario because it works so damn well. And I've got it in my Hobby King Cloud Surfer, and that's a great little plane too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to review this. I'm going to show you how to set up the Taranis to work with this thing, and I'm going to show you the results that I get from it. So that's a review coming up very shortly. Watch out for that one. In the meantime, if you've got any questions on this telemetry rubbish, then put them in the comments section of this video, and I'll do my best to address them and answer them. And if I've made any mistakes about the spectrum system, I'm sure people will inform me, because I don't have a spectrum system. And watch out also for the review of those new, or at least one of those new receivers from Hobby King with the built-in telemetry, which makes it very, very cheap. So it's actually as easy as the FrSky. So if you're a spectrum user, you will have access to this kind of thing, but it'll be interesting to see how much range they get out of the new Hobby King telemetry receivers, and how well they work. So stay tuned, that's all coming up. Busy weeks ahead on RC model reviews. So in the meantime, thank you for watching. It's time for me to get back to the bench. Bye for now.